It started on a Thursday evening, that weird kind of dusk where the sky burns orange and the crickets start rehearsing before night really sets in. I was in the barn, stacking feed bags, when I heard Grandpa yell from the porch. "Someone's out front!" His voice carried that sharp edge I hadn't heard since the tornado warnings last year. I stepped out, wiping dust from my hands, and saw a white SUV parked by the gate. The words, HOA Enforcement Unit, were stenciled on the side in crooked fading letters. "We don't have an HOA, not out here." 2 men stepped out. Khaki uniforms, clipboards, mirrored sunglasses, even though the sun was nearly gone. They walked like they owned the place, the kind of swagger only self-importance can give. "Evening," one said, tapping his badge, which was clearly plastic. "We've had reports your perimeter fencing violates community standards." Grandpa squinted. "Community standards? Son, our nearest neighbor is 2 miles away." The taller one forced a smile. "Sir, this area falls under the jurisdiction of..." Grandpa cut him off with a bark of laughter. "Jurisdiction of what exactly? My cows?" They didn't like that. The short one stepped closer, writing something on his clipboard like he was issuing a ticket to a man who didn't care. "You'll need to remove that fence within 48 hours. It's obstructing public access. Now, our ranch sits on a dead-end gravel road that goes nowhere but our land. Public access my foot." I tried keeping my voice calm. "Look, maybe there's some confusion. We're not in any HOA." He waved a hand, dismissive. "Non-compliance can result in fines and enforcement actions." The way he said enforcement actions made my skin crawl. They left in a huff when Grandpa started filming them on his phone. "Fake as a $3 bill, he muttered. We thought that was the end of it. But around midnight, the dogs went crazy. I looked out and saw headlights down by the gate. Same SUV. Only this time, it wasn't parked. It was revving. The sound echoed through the field, low and mean. Then, metal on metal. A hard crash. The fence shuddered, boards snapping. Grandpa was already halfway out the door with his shotgun. "They just rammed my fence," he growled. "Let's see how fake they really are." The gravel crunched under Grandpa's boots as he stormed toward the front gate, shotgun in one hand, flashlight in the other. The beam of light cut through the night, slicing across a trail of tire marks, twisted wood, and dust still hanging in the air. The white SUV was gone. Just the echo of its engine faded into the hills. "Cowards," Grandpa muttered, kneeling by the broken fence. One of the corner posts had been splintered clean in half, the rails torn loose like someone had tried to drive straight through them. I knelt beside him. "You think they'll come back?" He looked at me with that calm, dangerous kind of patience that only old men from the country seem to have. "If they're stupid enough to play cop, they're stupid enough to try again." The next morning I called the county sheriff. "Fake HOA cops." The deputy on the other end chuckled. "Never heard of any HOA out that way. Probably pranksters." "Pranksters don't ram fences with SUVs," I shot back. He promised to send someone when they could, which around here meant, don't hold your breath. Grandpa wasn't about to wait. By noon, he was already sketching something on the back of an old feed sack. Steel posts, concrete base. If they hit it again, they'll total that tin can they drive. I laughed nervously. "You're seriously turning the fence into a tank wall," he grinned. "Call it a lesson in rural engineering." By evening, we had a truckload of steel rails from his old construction days, half rusted but still solid. The clang of metal rang across the yard as we dug new post holes and reinforced every weak spot. Sweat, dust, the smell of diesel. It felt more like we were fortifying a castle than repairing a fence. That night, just as I was about to turn in, Grandpa came into my room. He was holding his phone. "Look," he said quietly, "a text message. No number, just private caller. Take down the fence or face consequences. Her rules are law." The words glowed white against the black screen. Grandpa's face hardened. "They're getting bold." Before I could answer, we heard it again. The low growl of an engine outside. This time closer, moving slow. The headlights crawled along the property line like a predator testing the edge of a cage. Grandpa turned off the lights. "They're not here for a talk," he whispered. "They're scouting." He checked the shotgun, then glanced back at me. "Tomorrow we finish the fortress." By sunrise, Grandpa was already welding. The sharp hiss of the torch and the blinding blue spark lit up the morning fog. He moved like a man on a mission. Quiet, focused, stubborn as iron. This time, he said without looking up. If they ram this fence, they'll need a tow truck and a new spine. We'd hauled every last piece of steel from his workshop. The posts went 4 feet deep, each one anchored with concrete and crossbars. The rails, heavy, black, and cold, gleamed under the sun like something out of a military base. I helped where I could, though Grandpa made it clear this was his fight. They picked the wrong old man, he'd mutter between sparks. By noon, we had a line of solid steel running the entire length of the property. It looked less like a ranch fence and more like the edge of a fortress. Exactly what Grandpa wanted. That afternoon, I caught him adding something extra. A small camera mounted inside a birdhouse facing the road. If they come again, he said, we'll have faces, not shadows. We were halfway through lunch when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Last warning, HOA enforcement returns tonight. No punctuation, no name, just that message. Grandpa read it over my shoulder and smirked. Then let's make sure the welcome mat's ready. That night, the ranch felt different. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses on your chest. Even the crickets had gone still. We sat on the porch with the lights off, watching the road. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then, far off, the crunch of gravel. Headlights in the distance. They're back, I whispered. The SUV rolled up slow this time. It stopped right in front of the new steel barrier. One guy stepped out. Same fake uniform, same mirrored shades. He pointed a flashlight at the fence, then at our house. Grandpa leaned forward, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. Go ahead, genius. Test the new wall. The man climbed back into the SUV. The engine revved. Louder. Then again. He was lining up for impact. Grandpa didn't move. He just said, watch this. The SUV lunged forward, tires screeching. And then boom. Metal slammed metal. The sound cracked through the night. Sparks flew. The front of the SUV crumpled like paper. For a moment, silence. Then the driver's door opened and the man stumbled out, cursing. He looked straight at us, and I swear, for half a second, his fake badge glinted under the porch light. Grandpa stood up, pumped the shotgun once, and said calmly, "Show's over, boys." The SUV peeled out, bumper dragging, disappearing down the road. But when we reviewed the birdhouse camera later that night, something didn't add up. There were 2 other vehicles waiting down the road, black sedans, no license plates. Morning broke with a strange stillness, the kind that follows a storm, when the world feels like it's holding its breath. Grandpa was already outside, standing by the steel fence, coffee in one hand, the other resting on one of the new posts like it was a trusted old friend. The front end of the SUV had left deep gouges in the dirt and faint streaks of oil on the steel. Grandpa grinned at the sight. Fence 1, fake cops 0. I wasn't laughing. The image from the birdhouse camera had been replaying in my head all night. The 2 black sedans waiting at the bend, engines idling, headlights off. Whoever they were, this wasn't just some local prank. We drove into town later that morning. The sheriff finally took us seriously after seeing the video. He leaned forward in his chair, squinting at the footage. "Those aren't HOA guys," he muttered. "And that SUV, I've seen that vehicle before." He made a quick call, voice low. A few minutes later, he turned back to us, face pale. Vehicles registered to a private security firm out of state. Shut down 2 years ago for impersonating law enforcement. Some of their guys still operate under fake HOA names. Extortion, intimidation, that kind of thing. Grandpa's jaw tightened. Extortion? Out here? The sheriff nodded. They target rural properties, claim fake violations, scare folks into paying fines or removing fences so they can access land illegally. You probably stopped them from getting through. I felt a chill. So they were after our land, or what's underneath it, the sheriff said. We've had reports of crews stealing irrigation equipment and copper lines out this way. You scared off something bigger than a couple of fake badges. Grandpa leaned back, slow and steady. Guess the fortress worked. That night, I couldn't sleep. The steel fence gleamed in the moonlight, casting long shadows across the pasture. Somewhere out there, coyotes howled, but for once, it didn't sound threatening. More like nature reclaiming the quiet. Grandpa came out to the porch, lowering himself into his chair beside me. "You know," he said, eyes on the horizon, "they'll think twice before coming back." I smiled faintly. You think it's over? He sipped his coffee. Black, strong, unbothered. With people like that? It's never over, but the fence'll hold. We sat in silence a while longer, the steel rails glinting like a line drawn between peace and chaos. A week later, a letter showed up in our mailbox. No return address, just one line typed neatly on white paper. You may have won the fence, but the HOA always comes back. Grandpa read it once, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the fire. Then we'll just build it higher. The flames hissed, the paper turned to ash, and the fortress stood, unbroken. If you want to hear more real-life HOA and Karen dramas, stories that start small and spiral out of control, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Soft metallic clang sound as text fades in. Subscribe for more crazy HOA stories. Narrator with a hint of humor. Because out here, peace and quiet don't last long. Not when the HOA's involved. Screen fades to black with logo and tagline. Karen Diaries, real drama, real chaos.